I'm Tommy D from the KnicksBlog.com. Hope you're enjoying the 2012 NBA playoffs. There is some stuff to discuss locally with both the Knicks and the Nets and some NBA playoffs. Joining me, as always, from Sheridan Hoops, Mr. Moke Hamilton. Good to see you're feeling better.
Thank you very much. It's nice to be back.
And from Hoops critic Brian Geltzeiler. Nice to see you, sir.
Always happy to be here, Tommy D.
All right, and I'm going to start with you right away. I got a chance to listen to the podcast with you and Alex Kennedy of Hoops World yesterday. A lot of stuff that he brought up about talking to Jeannie Buss about Phil Jackson and the Nets.
What Alex said yesterday, essentially, is that Phil Jackson is prepared to coach next year. Healthy as could be. Knee replacement surgery went very well. He feels great, spry, out for long walks. He's doing fantastically well, Phil. And the truth of the matter is that he's looking to coach, but he may not have a place that wants to meet his price tag. The one thing that was interesting that Alex brought up was the fact that he could see him landing with the Nets. Alex reported that Phil and Dwight Howard talk on a regular basis, would love to be together. Phil's looking for a lot of power. Mikhail Prokhorov within that organization will give Phil the power that he is looking for and will pay Phil's price tag. If the Nets are successful in making a trade for Dwight Howard, keep a very close eye on Phil Jackson being the guy to come in and coach that team.
So you're the Knicks, and you have an opportunity to talk to Phil Jackson. Mark Berman said they're hammering out a deal with Mike Woodson as we speak. It could be done sometime next week. Can the Knicks sit here and allow the Nets? My thing is very simple. They need to win the Atlantic Division next year. They need home court advantage. They need to be in order to allow them a good playoff run here. Can the Knicks allow this to happen without at least having a conversation with Phil Jackson?
Can they? Yes, they can. And all indications are that they are prepared to allow it to happen. The thing about the Knicks that I kind of look at and I realize is that a lot of the decisions that they've made over the past couple of years have not really been for basketball reasons, if you will. The Knicks marketing, selling out the Garden, and making the dollars is really the most important thing to this franchise, in my opinion. I don't think you could look at their situation objectively and say that it's always been about winning basketball games. If it was, there's no way that a guy like Phil Jackson would be on the market and potentially interested in the job, and you don't even pick up the phone and give him a call.
And that's my thing, Brian. It's like, I mean, you gotta just reach out. I mean, the connection is there, and more importantly for me, it's the ability to get veteran guys. We've sat here and talked about Lamar Odom. Lamar Odom could go to the Clippers because he wants to take the most amount of money, but why not come here and play for Phil? And really be a good six-man and a good rotation guy that fixes a lot of problems for the Knicks right away for 2.5 or whatever it's going to be. How do they just, from a pure basketball standpoint, and I guess I'm going to answer my own question, but how do they let that happen?
Well, I think we get back to what Moke's saying. This is not about basketball, Tommy.
I'm having a hard time accepting this.
I shouldn't. I understand. It's not about basketball. It's first and foremost, it's about organizational power. There's a lot of chefs cooking the Knicks meal. You can go up and down the line between Glenn Grunwald, between Scott O'Neill, between Mark Workentine, and that's just the guys that are currently on the payroll, okay? There's plenty of guys that have input here. When Phil Jackson comes here, he is going to want to be the czar of the organization. He's not interested in working for any general manager. He wants to have personnel power. He wants to have his own staff. Phil wants to run the organization, and with 11 rings, frankly, he's earned it. Knicks aren't prepared to do that with him. The other issue with Phil also has to be, the way he is with the media. You can't control Phil's mouth when he's in front of a press corps.
That's a good point.
And if you try to, he's not going to want to let you control his mouth. Knicks don't like that. The Knicks like to be able to channel the message pretty good. The Knicks act like the Secret Service sometimes with this stuff, and I think it's going to hurt him a little bit with Phil.
I've seen it firsthand. Speaking of power, and listen, I mean, we'll see what happens over this time frame here with Phil. I'm just having trouble coming to grips with it. And I know he does want to coach again, and I know he wants to be here, whether it's Brooklyn or whatever. But as Brian says, Dwight Howard is a distinct possibility as well. Talking about power, let's move to the NBA playoffs. Eric Spoelstra and Dwayne Wade had an incident that Spoelstra, after the game, said happens very often, which it does not. Give me your take on what's going on in Miami right now. Can they stay in the series, and what was your impressions on what happened between Wade and Spoelstra?
Well, briefly, whether they can stay in the series or not, it really all hinges on Roy Hibbert. And if he plays like that,
who's been tremendous.
If he plays like that, the Heat are probably going to lose this series in 5 or 6 games, especially without Bosh. Last night, when the situation happened with Dwayne Wade and Coach Spoelstra, I immediately tweeted that I lost all respect for Eric Spoelstra as a coach. Something like that would never happen to Greg Popovich or George Karl or even Larry Brown. Something like that happens with one of your star players on your team, his place is on the bench next to you, and you should be in his ear for at least the next couple of game minutes. They ended up losing the game anyway, and in the process, Spoelstra lost the respect of many, many guys on his team, I'm sure. You cannot allow one of your players to disrespect you like that blatantly on national TV in a game in which he was playing poorly. So the criticism was probably warranted. Cannot happen, especially not for this team.
I mean, he was on center court, and he had to have Juwan Howard and Haslam and those guys really kind of push him back, which was very awkward for a veteran and guy who's been with Spoelstra for 9 years. Let's not get too far ahead of ourselves, but hypothetically, they lose the series. What's the next step for the Heat's front or for Pat Riley? There's only one guy making the decisions there.
Let me say this. I will start with, I don't think they're going to lose the series. I think you're going to see an excellent team in Game 4. I think their demeanor generally at the end of the game, which is, you got to understand something. They could only lose one game yesterday. The worst they could be is down 2-1 going into a Game 4 and the score starts at 0-0. So I don't think they're going to lose this series. If they do lose this series, I don't think they're going to break up the core, but Eric Spoelstra is going to go. I think they're going to bring in somebody new to coach this team and see if they can make something better out of the mix. They think they have a great team. I think they have a great team. If they, even without Bosch here, he's not going to be allowed to hang on that as an excuse. I think short of getting to the finals again, if they lose in this round or in the East Final, you're changing coaches.
A lot of stuff to talk about here over the next couple weeks. Look forward to having you guys here again.
Thanks, Tom.
Thanks for the knowledge, as always. And remember, to get all your information on the Knicks, and this time of year, other teams that are actually playing, check out the KnicksBlog.com, part of the SMY.TV blog network. For Moke and Brian, I'm Tommy. We'll see you next time.